pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Has everyone signed in? I'm assuming that's a yes. There's like a big chasm between Kevin and Mike here. Anyway. Has everyone looked at the meeting minutes from October 31st? If not, here's your opportunity. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from October 31st. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes from October 31st, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Meeting minutes? Yes.
I'm sorry, who was motion and second?
Kevin, motion, Max, second. Or George. Kevin's not here. George, motion.
Thank you, sorry.
Program of projects update. Has everyone seen? I know everybody got a copy of on the website, right? It's a whole lot easier reading this. Like I said, it's 200 rows by 70 some columns. I try to shrink it down. To make it fit, but still. Are there any questions, comments on the program of projects? I think everything is in there that we've, I tried to catch everyone's comments from quarterly meetings. The last page, if everybody could turn to the last page. So far this year, it looks like we have $1 million left over. That is, of course, subject to change as my life goes on. Next year, it shows there's a $5 million deficit, but I think we've got that corrected because, as I will explain later on, that there is, we have a good chance of getting funds from NDOT. And then 2026 has got a deficit. 27 is about balanced, and then there's a huge, we have some funds in 2028. So I am going to be looking at 2026 and seeing how we can move those projects. I've got a couple ideas, but I didn't get them in time for this meeting, especially after talking at the quarterly meetings. Moving on, the program projects update, B, the 24 to 28 STIP update. We are hoping in order for our TIP to be approved, our long-range transportation plan has to be approved by NDOT and Federal Highway. And in order for our long-range transportation to be approved, our air quality conformity metrics must be approved by the EPA and written into the and put into the federal regs. Is that right? Am I saying that right? Okay. So, and those numbers will be official on March 19th. So I've been talking with Federal Highway and I've been talking with NDOT. The indication that I've got is that they are going to be ready to sign everything on the 19th or close to thereafter. At that point, our long-range transportation plan will be approved, should be approved. And once that gets approved, then our TIP can be going, and our TIP will go into a 3-day public comment period for NDOT. And then after the 3 days, it will be put into the STIP. And then once that gets into the STIP, then our amendment, our amendment 24-01, which our commission just approved, will go out for a 3-day comment period and will then be put into the STIP. So by April 1st, if you notice, my legs are crossed, my fingers are crossed, my eyes are crossed, that we can get our TIP can be approved. So that's what I'm hoping for, and then we can function as with a TIP that's actually approved. And then this fall, I'm going to start all over and with the NOFA and writing a new TIP. So, by the way, like I mentioned, this fall is the NOFA, and it'll be in September. And like it is every year. Jeffrey?
Put out in September, due like by October 1st?
It probably won't be September 1st, but it'll be out for a month. So it'll probably be early, mid-September, I'm guessing.
Knowing it's coming, I mean, I hate to get in that pinch we've been in before where we're scrambling to get meetings scheduled around the holidays and that, so.
Right. Yeah, we did that a couple years. Last year, we did ours in October, and it was really tough. So please be thinking about projects that you want. And we'll cover all this next week. But please think about projects you want and putting them forward. If you want to look at the last NOFAs, the last applications, they're not going to change much. We're just plugging holes in the dike. So you can run it through an old NOFA application and see how your project scores. That's roughly going to be about the same. So you can figure out which projects would be a good project and which project is pie in the sky. And then by all means, you need to talk to your executive officer, whether that's your city council, your town council, city manager, town manager, whatever, and the mayor, whatever. So you'll need to talk to them to make sure they're on board for submitting your projects. And then please meet with NERC staff during that month, because we can help answer a lot of your questions and let you put together the best application you can. I don't have any favorites. So please, I'll do whatever I can to help all the projects. I want the best project to go through. Mike?
Quick question, in terms of the criteria for scoring, is there anything that's weighted heavily, more heavily than the others?
Look at the application.
Okay.
So please talk and please meet with NERC staff on the projects that you want to propose. We'll help you get the best score you can. We'll answer your questions, and maybe enlighten you on what may be allowed and what may not be allowed. New business. Local quarterly meetings, we had them last week, or last 3 weeks, I should say. If you haven't done a quarterly report, they've got to be done. I think there were a few of them that you had yet to turn in quarterly reports. You do that through LTAP. So they need to be done. And actually, if you don't do your quarterly reports, you run the risk of not being approved for future projects. And that's one of the rules in the NOFA, and NDOT will come back and ask me not to fund a project for an LPA because of quarterly reports. So, and they're more than happy to be the bad guy. Moving on, 5B. LaPorte County is requesting, okay. Before we go on to 5B, I need to preface that with, and I thought I had this in but I didn't, I missed it. 5A1 then, I guess. NDOT is offering, as we all know, federal highway funds are every year you use it or you lose it. And what happens to those federal dollars if we don't use them? They go somewhere else. They go to Missouri, they go to Wyoming, they go to Alaska, they go, I don't know where. Hopefully they're going someplace nice and warm at this time of the year. I don't know where they go, but the federal highway will issue those to other states. Case in point, NDOT received an additional $32 million in 2024 funds to spend on transportation alternative projects. So they have reached out to all the MPOs to see where, if we had any trail projects and what the risk on the trail projects were moving forward. We have 4 trail projects that we are letting, these are federal highway dollars, so we have 4 trail projects which we are letting before November of this year. And so they're going to reimburse us for those funds after we let those projects.
That's where you freed up other money from?
That's where I can free up other money from. Now, the problem is if we don't spend all our money, then they're not going to reimburse us for those projects. So I have $1 million yet to spend in 2024, as I showed you on the last page. If I don't spend that, then we don't get that $1 million reimbursed. So we have one project in March and it's 1.7 million. So if we spend everything else that we have, that we would only get $700,000 back reimbursed from NDOT. So they're not going to create an extra burden on us. So if we can spend the money, they're going to give us additional funds. So that's additional funds that we can use in 2025 for anything we want. I've identified a couple different projects, and I've called all the projects that were in 2025. I talked to all the LPAs, as well as a lot of the consultants, and to find out which projects are at risk, and if we could accelerate some projects. And we've identified 3 projects that could accelerate. And those 3 projects are like $9 million. Now, I think if we spend all our money, we would get 7 million. So we can't afford everything, but we do have some options. I have 2 projects in East Chicago and 1 project in LaPorte County. And that is why Mitch and Jay from LaPorte County are here. So I've asked them to come because their project, all 4 of those projects are in Group 1. But they have a unique circumstance, so I've asked them to come and state their case with here today, this morning. So, is there any questions about the funding that we may or may not get from NDOT? Yes.
If there's any leftover, is it flexible to transit?
Well, see, that's no. We can flex money over to transit. But if it's not in our normal program and we flex it to transit, NDOT has said that we will not get reimbursed for that money. And the transit project, there has to be a transit project.
Oh, I think there's plenty.
Well, not everybody has transit projects. So Stephen and Ann and I are trying to remedy that. But not everybody put in projects. We got funding for operating assistance, or we got requests for operating assistance and preventive maintenance. But outside of that, we don't have a whole lot. Now, we can flex funding for preventative maintenance, but we can't flex it over for operating assistance. We can do bus purchases if it's already in the system. So, any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
In terms of the trail projects that are being reimbursed, are there certain work types that qualify for trails? For example, are any sidewalk projects qualified, or is it specifically trail projects? Follow-up question, is there any certain criteria for the trail projects, length, dollar values?
So the trail projects that NDOT is going to reimburse us for are their TA funds, Transportation Alternative Funds. We can use those funds for anything we want. It would be great if we could use it for TA, but obviously for trails. And by the way, sidewalks is also transportation alternative. We can use that for those. We can use that funding if it's so, but there is no stipulation on the funding once we get it from NDOT. We can use it for anything else. That's why we have a road reconstruction and a bridge new bridge or a bridge rehab. I'm not sure. It's a new bridge, not a rebuild bridge. What's that? Thank you for that term, replacement, bridge replacement. Any other questions on this funding from NDOT? Okay, I'd like to turn it over to LaPorte County. They are doing their request.
Yeah, so as Charlotte mentioned, Mitch Bishop, the Fort County planner, usually do not attend these meetings, but Charlotte said I had to be here. And next to me is Jay Sullivan, the Fort County engineer. And as Charlotte mentioned, we have a bridge 512. It's a City. It actually is in Michigan City, but it's about a quarter mile from the city. And in the past, we've gotten these funds, but we currently don't have construction project. Speaking with the contractor, we needed to we're able to expedite this, accelerate it for fiscal year 25, mainly because the right of ways are owned by the city, Michigan City, and I already drafted a government agreement. It will be more or less right of entry at this point. Spoke to their engineer, their planner, and their attorney, and I've had that done within a month. And that'll be signed by Michigan City and Polk County, our reps, and that'll take care of right away in this project. It was originally let for September 26th. Stage 3 plans, USI consultants, and engineer, they feel they'll have it done in July of this year, and the new vetting date would be the end of February, beginning of March of 25. Because of the right of way, we think we would take 12 to 18 months. The Michigan City's the only owner, and because your government agreements will be complete signed within a month, we feel that that's why I think this celebrate. Another thing, in Polk County, we do have 118 bridges, and we generate only 825,000 in funds for bridge replacement. And so, any help we can receive to update our bridges and the safety of those bridges would be greatly appreciated. So, with that in mind, I spoke to Charles, and that's what I'm here today.
So the reason they are here because this is a $4 million project and
3.68.
federal funds. So with construction inspection, it's 4.6 million. And LaPorte County only gets 2.3 in Group 2 funds. So we do have this, and nothing can, I mean, I still have to see what happens with the tip. And if the projects are awardable, and how much money we're gonna get back from MnDOT, reimbursed from MnDOT. So that's why LaPorte County is here, because they're asking for some funds from Group 1 so that they can fund their bridge project. Again, like I said, it's a $4 million project, total construction costs, plus another $600,000 for construction inspection. And they're requesting up to 3.6 million. So, are there any questions for Mitch or Jay?
Is this something that they have to pay back to Group 1?
That's something we could discuss, but the only reason they're here is because Group 1 is getting extra funds. So if you'd want them to pay it back, we can discuss that and get the money back in.
But there's no federal reg saying that they have to pay us back.
No.
We can.
Right.
Okay.
A lot of other MPOs, they just combine both funding pots. We keep ours separate. But some other MPOs, they combine both funding pots and just fund projects out of both combined pots.
So the money they're asking for would be extra funds that we're being allowed to do that.
Yes.
And we have those funds available. I mean, no other agencies have stepped up and said, "Here,
Well, the other agency that is asking, that can accelerate their project is Michigan, or is East Chicago for Michigan Boulevard.
Do we have funds to cover both projects?
In theory, yes, or most of, all of East Chicago and most of LaPorte County. But we'll have to see how, and I don't want to promise either project that it can go, because I don't know if it can go yet or not, because we don't know if the funds are, I found out Thursday afternoon that I have a project in the city of Gary, which is being bumped to 2025, which is almost $1 million. So I haven't even taken that into account. And there is another project in Portage that is at risk, is a high risk because of the tip. So if we get our tip taken care of by April 1st, I've been told that that project can go in 2024. If it can't go in 2024, then both these projects, I would say, probably won't go, because they'll be looking at 2025 funds. And both those projects would eat up a lot of the 2025 funds. So I made that clear to Mitch that although we are offering this, and for them to come and talk to them, there are no guarantees other than the proverbial death in Texas in life. But there are no guarantees that this money will be there. But they have instructed their designer to accelerate as much as they can so that they can be ready for probably a March letting of 2025. So,
So when's their drop dead date that they have to have a yes or no by?
it'll probably be December, I think, according to the RFP or the letting schedule for
So,
final tracing schedule.
If we had a motion on the floor to direct you to pursue that avenue and report back to us at the next T-Rock, we'll have a lot more information and
Yes.
be able to,
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay.
I had to figure it out.
Yeah.
That makes sense, thank you.
So we have a motion that we can accept both these projects if we can. And I will report back at the next T-Rock meeting on the status of the extra funds as well as these projects. They're both at high risk because they both have accelerated their schedule from 27 for East Chicago.
September 26th to March 12th.
Right. So both of them are accelerating their projects. So like I said, they're both at high risk because, they're waiting, they're going to be needing permits and stuff like that they got to get.
I can feel for them, 118 bridges and we did 800,000 annually, that's one mediocre bridge.
We got 3 a year. Trying to get 3 done a year.
Right.
$800,000 for a bridge does not go very far.
Right. And we are going to continue this conversation with Kathy to see maybe if this falls through, that they can still we can figure out their bridge situation. So, anyway, we have a motion on the floor to accept these if we get the monies and for me to report back at future T-Rock. We got a motion and a second, so all those in favor? All those opposed? Okay, thank you. The next one is 5C, CN estimates must be correct in RTIP. NDOT and Federal Highway has informed me that our tip needs to correctly reflect all of the funds that are in a project. So that means when there is a stage submittal, please send me the estimates so we can get those into our tip. Beth?
On correctly reflecting things, I noticed 2 Valpo projects. We, 2 quarters ago, changed our letting date, and our fiscal year for funding. So I just wanted to make sure that whatever that you're using reflects the changes that have been made.
Did you look in our tip?
No, I'm looking at the spreadsheet attached to the.
Okay. Did, which project are we talking about?
Well, what I noticed is 21011141. So we had 2 quarterly meetings with the new letting date of October 9th, 2024. And it's still showing in the spreadsheet as November 14th, 23.
Actually, if you look at when the funds are allocated,
Okay,
the funds are in 2025.
okay, that's right,
So,
okay.
and I do believe we have the current estimate in
Do
there.
you need anything from us?
No,
Okay. We're good?
no. Any other project?
Yeah, the roundabout at Cable Linkaway, it's 1902686. Similar situation, we pushed the letting date back to, I believe, July 2025. But then looking at your 2026 fiscal year, the majority of the funds are there. So I think that's the same situation.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, yeah, so if, like I said, every stage submittal, please send me those stage submittals so we can get those corrected in our tip. And get them reflected, make sure they're reflected correctly on the program of projects. I generally update the program of projects at the quarterly meetings. So what you have in your quarterly report should be reflected in the program projects. And then therefore it should be put into our tip correctly. So that doesn't always happen. I'm probably going to be, in the past, we've had I've had comments, or I've had requirements that people go in and make changes in RTIP. But I've been doing that for the LPAs and for the ERCs, mainly because we were hoping to transition to a different software. Yeah, that doesn't look like it's. I haven't heard anything from NDOT. Last I've heard, that's been like permanently on hold. That project. So it looks like we are staying with RTIP. I mean, I signed a 1-year contract I nervously signed a 1-year contract with our vendor. And so it looks like we're just going to go back when our year's up and sign a longer term. Every time I've asked NDOT, I've gotten the same response that it's been suspended. The project of creating one tip for everybody has been suspended. So
we're not reporting everything in ITAP?
no, it's different. So you are reporting everything in ITAP. But I'm talking about RTIP.
You're still using our,
We're still using RTIP, and it looks like we're gonna be using RTIP for a while.
So some of these projects, we're gonna have to report to those.
No, not reporting. If there's any changes, and I'll talk more about it in the future. I've got a lot on my plate right now with this meeting and then meeting next week, so that's kind of a tangent, my fault. So, but anyway, if any state submittal, please make sure that we get those, Ann or myself get those, so we can correctly put those in our tip. And if there's a substantial increase, please let us know, because I don't know if we can afford substantial increases. It is what it is, I understand. But that was 5C. 5D, moving on. There's been a request for allocation of funds, for additional allocation of funds lost from POs closed by NDOT. Most of you know that Marcy and Brianne will tell you that if you're not submitting projects on if you're not submitting POs, thank you, on a timely manner, i.e. monthly or bi-monthly, after 6 months, they have they do have the right to close that PO. So there were several POs that were closed recently in January. No. Beginning of February. Actually, I think it was the end of January. January 31st is when they closed it. The region lost $1.3 million. $1.3 million the region lost because POs were not submitted, or canceled checks were not submitted to NDOT in a timely manner. So we have a request from several of the projects or the ERCs that they would get additional funding for those projects to replace the funding that they lost. That comes up to about $700,000 of additional funds that we would give to them. So the PO was closed, so the funds have disappeared. And like I said, they've gone off to wherever. These were FY23 dollars that went back to the federal highway. So, and I have a list of a couple other projects that were getting close, that they did not close. And I did talk to those folks about getting those in, and they said they were going to get them in. So just something to keep in mind. If you have an open PO, submit something at least every 2 or 3 months at the max. So we have a request here to reimburse, or not, I shouldn't say reimburse, to allocate additional funds for those POs that were lost. Beth?
I just, they used to warn you or remind you, and they don't do that. They'll just close.
So they'll remind you at quarterly meetings.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was gonna say, every quarterly meeting. Yeah.
I got 0 reminders. I got 1 in a quarterly meeting, and by that afternoon, they closed it and said, sorry, you don't. I do
So
not
this
get email
does not
reminders.
come from Marcy. This does not come from Marcy and Brianne.
Yeah,
This comes from NDOT central office. When they say close a PO, there is no Marcy or Brianne cannot call you up and say, hey, Charles, you need to get something in today. No, there is none of that.
Just know that you can't, like, you can't count on them to remind you.
What they've been doing in the quarterly meetings is, Brianna, they will say, whoever they're talking to, you haven't sent anything in the last 4 months. You need to send something in. So they're trying to remind you that 6-month cycle, if there's nothing in there, there's gonna be a problem after that. So keeping track of, there was a couple that we spoke to that said, oh, we had some, we just didn't send them in. Well, okay. You have to send them in. Once you get your portion done, you have to get that into them so they can get that handled. And I think Brianne even said, if you email them and let them know what's going on, they can at least have something in their system saying they've spoken to you, you've spoken to them. I don't know if that helps not close the PO, but,
Did not know.
you know. So I don't know. I think I remember yours being that day. I remember yours being that day. They were saying, get it in now, get it in now, get it in now. Because they weren't sure if they were going to hear from them saying close it.
Yeah, and later on,
And later on, they closed it. So it wasn't like they didn't know it was going to be that day, I don't think. They knew it was coming up quickly. I think just be mindful of the fact that sometimes you guys are getting your payments, you're sending out your payments to whomever, but you're not sending them in to NDOT to get them reimbursed. That's what's happening. There's some disconnect there with some of the agencies. So that's what has to happen to ensure that they are closing. Because we don't want to hear that we lost $1.4 million. That's not a good thing.
right. So, and I said, I think there's $700,000 that we can get, we're asking for reallocation. Now, I think those are gonna be from FY25 funds. Because those are a significant amount of funds. Some of the projects I might be able to get in 2024. But anything major is gonna have to go out in 2025. So that will lead into our extra additional funds for 2025 that we're getting.
Charles, how does that work? So if you're not supposed to, your PO has to be issued before you can, like before the date of an invoice that you seek reimbursement for. So if it's not available till 25, but all your invoices will have been 24, then are you really, is that 25 money really available to you?
Well, like I said, there's 3 projects that are going in 2025, in quarter 1 of 2025.
I was just talking about the closed POs, like so the projects that were in progress and should have been getting invoices. Ours actually, we weren't getting any invoices because it's from the railroad. I thought we would, but we weren't. So, but then I asked for them and they go, oh, okay, here's your invoices. So I have the invoices now, but if the money is available in 25, the PO wouldn't be, I don't know, how does that sequence work?
So in your case, I think we could get the funds in 2024. And I'm trying to think, East Chicago's case, you won't get it till 2025. That's just too big of an amount. There's a couple others that I might be able to get in 2024. But I looked at it, and anything over $100,000 request, or anything that is a significant amount, that is 50% more, will have to be in an amendment. And chances of our amendment going through are shrinking every day. So it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be hurry up and wait. So I guess in the future, I don't know how to do that if the railroad hasn't given you an invoice, or if you haven't received an invoice. You just have to keep on top of that. If you haven't received an invoice from your consultant, then we can make sure that you let Brianne and Marcy know that, that you're waiting on this and you've called and asked them about that. Tom?
Charles, I just want to clarify, I think the question was, if the costs had been incurred prior to reopening of the purchase order, which would happen in 2025 because the funds were available in 2025, can those funds still be reimbursed if they were already spent, right? I think that's the question.
Okay. Brianne told me that yes, you can. Because there was already a PO there that was opened. So you can get those funds reimbursed. Yeah, normally you need a notice to proceed before you can start working on that. But being there was a PO that was already opened, and fortunately those funds are gone, but the PO, there is a history of a PO for those funds. So you can get reimbursed for those funds. I would still ask Marcy or Brianne. Say, okay, if I got these funds, would I still be able to do that? That's what she told me. To me, I think that's a little suspect, but please ask. I don't want to be a middleman, and I'd hate for them to misunderstand my question, and then me pass along what I thought was correct information. So, yes.
I have a question. Jeff Fungi, Town of Cedar Lake. I'm our new town manager. We have, 1, 2, 3. When would be, how far back would we have to go to figure out if I have open invoices that have not been closed out in the purchase order process?
Well, you could talk to your project manager. They would be able to tell you. The project manager, the NDOT project manager, which is Andrew. So talk to Andrew. Actually, I don't think, in your case, I don't think that there was ever a invoice submitted to NDOT.
It's looking that way, I believe you're correct.
I got the list, and I don't show that there was anything that was submitted. So I would just submit them all, combine them all and submit them once. Talk to your project manager though, because they do have rules. So it's not like you can send in 12 canceled checks all at once. And they might make an exception, but that's a lot of time for them to spend on a project and that they may or may not have. So if you are going to send more than 2 invoices in at once, you do need to talk to your project manager at NDOT. In the past, they haven't allowed it, but if you make an exception, if you call them, they might make an exception. So. So this one has an approval, request for approval. So this is where I asked for a motion.
Can I motion?
You can't.
I motion.
The city can.
City of Chicago.
The city can. So Julio's making a motion to get additional funds for their projects. So we got a motion.
I'll second it for discussion.
So we have a second. Discussion. I'm going to try to get these in 2024.
Do you have any discussion, any further thoughts?
I'm about 50-50 getting them in 2024. Some of them are not a big deal. Like I said, Valparaiso's is not a big deal. Some of the other ones, like Jeff's, like Cedar Lakes and East Chicago, those are gonna be the questionable ones. Whether or not I can get those in 24 funds.
Okay, so the motion includes a multiple of things, or we can probably restate the motion?
I wanna say there's four, ERCs LPAs that were affected.
So it's going to essentially be a judgment call based on your fact finding.
It's not really a judgment call, it's whether or not I can get an amendment in. Right now, I'm running up against a timeline because everything has to be in the STIP by May 1st.
Okay, so the motion would be so that you can try to work your magic.
Yeah, and I'm gonna allocate these funds, get those in an amendment as quickly as possible, so we can get that amendment out the door and in front of our commission as quickly as possible. We gotta get it, like I said, it's gotta be in the STIP by May 1st. In order for these funds to be approved, which means it's gotta be signed and sent down to NDOT on April 1st to give them plenty of time to get it into the STIP. Which means it's got to be out for public comment by March 1st at the latest. So, and then I've also got to look at the commission schedule. Yeah, this time of the year, it really gets into a tight timeline. So, I think a lot of us have this turned into a learning lesson, and we've learned something new. Yeah, it is my intention that if this passes, that I will do whatever I need to do to get this approved and in front of, down to NDOT by April 1st. Or in plenty of time for it to be put into the STIP by May 1st.
Which means it's got to go before the commission at the March meeting.
Yes. Yes.
And you got to get it posted for comment period ASAP.
Right, probably this week.
So it'll go before the TPC.
What's that?
It'll go before TPC.
Yes. And I've got to talk with Tom about this process, as well as probably Ty. So there's a lot of, it's coming fast and hard.
So if I could just request you make a tidy sentence if possible with this motion.
Okay, so the motion is that we allocate or do everything possible to allocate these funds in 2024 monies to replace the funds that were lost when the POs were closed. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
George, do you agree with that? Okay.
Maybe add something that we make that recommendation to TPC this month.
Yes. So, yeah, that's going to be, yes.
So whoever made the motion would have to agree with it.
And subsequently, the executive board.
What was that, Jeff?
Whoever made the motion would have to amend it as well as the second.
That it would go before TPC? Well, it has to go before TPC. It automatically goes before TPC. So the motion is that we would do everything to get this possible, which means it goes before the TPC in March and April. I do need to, now we are going to be sidestepping the public comment process for amendments, so I do need to talk to Tom about that, probably immediately following this meeting. So, all those in favor? Opposed? Okay. We will, I will move heaven and water to get this. Moving on, there is a putting signs up on construction sites. CA 23-6, enhancing transparency through the use of investing in America emblem on signs. Basically, if you want, we can put signs on our work sites that says this project has been funded by bill funds, by IIJA / bipartisan infrastructure law funds, if you want. I know there's been, sometimes we put projects up with community crossings. I know NDOT has projects next level signs. I'm just letting you know that if you would like to include a sign that's saying this project was funded at 80% by, or however you want to word it, you can put up a sign that says that these funds were provided through the bipartisan infrastructure law. So keep that in mind. 5F, new administration workshop is February 29th. It says 8:30 to 10:30, but it's been moved to 10:30 to 12:30.
I noticed that yesterday. You pulled a fast one on us.
We got, hey, you know, I've been talking about it, and it just seems like it's growing. There's been a lot of interest in this. It's going to be in this room, and so we have to cap it at 60. So I don't know how many people have signed up already, but it sounds like a lot of people. There was something sent out last Thursday or Friday that went to everybody. If you didn't get it, please see me or Candace.
May we forward it to those who have contacted?
You can forward it to anyone you want.
Okay.
I'm not planning on doing it is not going to be on YouTube, so you'll need to be present. I will have the slides afterwards, and I may record it for prosperity's sake, but I will have the slides and other information there at the meeting. So.
RSVP with Charles or Candace because we do have a cap on this room because of ADA complaints. So.
You have to do it through that registration.
Yes, so that was sent out last week, there is a registration link on there. So go through there and register. Don't tell me, because I'll forget. So, a lot of it's gonna be federal funds 101. Okay? We're gonna go through what STBG is. We're gonna go through how construction projects work. So, a lot of it is geared toward the new mayor, the new city council, the new county council, whoever it may be. Anybody who wants to find out how NERC operates, how I operate. But you must sign up, must register. We're limiting it to about, I think, well, we're not limiting it. If you have 3 people there, that's great. if you have more there, just keep in mind that, you're probably taking the seats away from somebody else. So, but register early.
Yeah.
And if we have a whole bunch, I may set up another meeting. We'll see.
I have two council members interested, and I totally missed that email Friday, so thank you for bringing that up to my attention.
If you do get a lot of over, or have a lot that you have to turn down, are you gonna try to schedule a second date for it?
That's what I just said.
Okay.
Yeah. If we notice that there are, a bunch, then I may set up another one in a couple weeks in March. I haven't looked at it yet.
Just, there's at least one from Sherrill that would like to attend, but he's not gonna be in town that day, so if there's an alternative date, we'd love for him to review it.
Have him sign up anyway,
Okay.
or actually, we'll just keep an eye on that he would like to come, but he's gonna be out of town.
Well, if you record it, then you can also send out
Yes.
to the people that did
Yeah,
it,
that's true.
so they can share it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if there's a overwhelming response, then I may do it again. Who knows?
That would include people who are running for elected office as well, correct?
I'm keeping it open for anybody. It's, like I said, it's gonna be geared toward new administration, people that don't know the process, that don't know the lingo, that don't know, what NERC does, what this secret organization does. So, 5G, any other new business? Okay, moving on to number 6. The next T-Rock meeting is scheduled for May 21st at 9 a.m. right here in this room. Do a motion,
So moved.
a second? We'll give Dwayne it. We'll give it to Dwayne. He hasn't done a motion. So we'll give him a second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Anybody who wants to stay and talk? I'm here. Thank you, everybody.